Let him cook, Ned. LA mating call.
Mm-hmm. All right, now we're ready to go.
That's right.
Welcome to Sibs Read Smut podcast. I'm Ned.
I'm Helen.
This is a podcast where we read, rate, review, and joke about all while discussing your, but mainly our favorite dirty romance books. If you have any suggestions and or questions, reach out to us on the socials, Instagram, TikTok, at Sibs Read Smut, or on email at sibsreadsmut@gmail.com. On today's podcast, the what?
Gmail.com, okay?
Gmail.com.
Just in case. People aren't hip to the lingo, all right?
Hip to be square. On today's podcast, we will be discussing Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. It is a good one. It is fun. A tip of the cap to you.
Tip of the cap.
Spoiler alert, we will be discussing these books in full. Beginnings, endings, twists are all fair game. If you haven't read the book, please go hit pause and read and listen to this one because it is very good. We don't want to ruin it for you.
It's short.
And it's relatively short.
It's not too long.
Yeah. Helen, why don't you give us a brief summary of the book?
All right. I'm ready. I've donned my cowboy hat, and I'm ready to clue you in on some cowboy smut. All right. Here we go. I have not read this yet. This is Ned's description of this book. All right. Done and Dusted. Clementine Ryder, Emmy for short, decides to quit barrel racing after a bad fall and move back to her hometown of Meadowlark, Wyoming. There she runs into, literally, Luke, the owner / fuckboy turned business owner. Oh, I'm sorry. The local fuckboy turned business owner. Her feelings for him are confusing and horny, but considering he's her older brother's best friend, it's probably a bad idea. Luke Brooks needs to reconcile his dirty, dirty thoughts for the off-limits little sister of his best friend while trying to help her navigate her mental blockage about mounting horses again. Will he be able to convince her he's changed and avoid falling for her? Will she be able to convince him to ride her like a bucking bronco into the sunset? We'll see.
That's a pretty good description of the book.
That's a great description, Ed. Good job.
Yeah, I hit all the notes we needed to hit there.
All the notes. Yep.
All the notes. You know, less humping in there than as actually in the real book. But
it's true.
But yeah, I mean, right off the bat, good looking cover. I mean,
that is true.
Old timey Western feel.
You probably picked this for the cover.
Yeah, I think I watched this. Yeah,
you picked this. You brought this into our lives. Yeah. Yeah,
brought this one into our orbit, and this is book 1 of 4 in this series. The fourth one, I think, literally came out today. Which we're recording this preemptively, so not today is when the podcast drops, but it will be out by the time this podcast is airing.
Yes. Wild and Wrangled.
Yeah,
that's the fourth one.
And as we mentioned, this book is pretty short. It's only 6.5 hours long, which is, pretty relatively short for a romance book. And it's only 356 pages, which, makes it a pretty quick read. But they pack a lot of punching into that short amount of time.
Your cowboy. Ned just punched at the camera, and he's wearing this black cowboy hat. I mean, he looks like such a villain cowboy. Punch. I'm going to punch you.
Packs a punch. Oh, man.
These hats are really killing me. I don't know if I can do the whole...
And yours is putting you a little off-center, too, for those watching the video. It's like... Because Helen likes to look at herself big on the screen. She doesn't look at the dual view.
We're even. We're even on the screen. I don't need to see myself.
Little peek behind the curtain, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But there was also an ADHD warning at the beginning of this book, which Emmy, or Clementine, suffers from ADHD. And I think pretty much every member of our family suffers from it too.
I was going to say, did you feel a kinship with her?
No, but I was like, yeah, I don't get and then I was, as I read, I was like, yeah, maybe some of that stuff affects me. The hyper focus and all this other stuff. I'm like, but only about stuff that doesn't matter. But she takes a bad fall and has to go home. She knocks herself out, and she is paralytic around horses now. She can't even get on a horse. She doesn't know where to go. She's a professional barrel racer, and as you may or may not know, that means you have to fucking be able to ride a horse. So she comes back kind of not knowing what to do with the rest of her life, missing her family, her hometown, and like night one goes to the bar with her bad influence friend.
Yeah,
Teddy.
you quickly find out that she's just normal.
Yeah, and subject of book 3.
Yes.
Teddy, the best friend.
The Devil's Boot is the bar, and it is the bar that Luke owns. So the male main character now owns the bar.
Well,
the
and
Devil's Boot.
Great names across the board.
Yeah.
There's the Devil's Boot is the bar. Meadowlark is a pretty westerny sounding name for the hometown.
Wyoming. Yeah.
And then what
Rebel Blue Ranch.
Devil Blue Ranch.
Rebel.
Rebel Blue Ranch.
Rebel Yell.
Which is, don't get us canceled, Helen.
Is that bad? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the Rebs were the South.
I thought that was like a rock and roll song.
Probably by a Southern band. Whoopsie.
We'll cut that out.
Yeah, that'll end up on the cutting room floor.
Rebel Blue is their home. It's their ranch.
Yeah,
it's like one of the biggest ranches in Wyoming. I'm sure you've never seen a little show called Yellowstone. Very few people have watched that. But that in my brain was really what this place looks like.
It's Yellowstone with less murder and more fucking.
I don't know about the fucking. There's a lot of fucking in Yellowstone.
I mean, not in the descriptions that they give like this.
Rebel Yell is a song by Billy Idol.
Okay.
Okay. Let's leave that one.
And then he says the N-word 18 times in it.
Stop. That's not funny.
No laughing. And of course being named Clementine, which she hates.
I love that name. I would use that name for a kid. I love the name Clementine.
They sing "Oh My Darling Clementine" just to piss her off. And I mean, like from the get-go, Luke is getting the downtown rumblies over seeing her again. He's just immediately hard.
Wow,
for
she's
her.
hot.
Yeah,
I forgot how hot she was.
I didn't remember her looking that way. It was like, okay, and Luke's been the town ride for most of his adolescent career and into his early to mid 20s. Slept with everybody. The conversation about who was your first kiss, and he tells her, and she's like, didn't you sleep with
that
her
girl's
mom?
And he's like, yes, I did.
Yeah.
But like later. He's like, well, I kissed her in like the 7th grade, and then I slept with her mom when I was in my 20s, and I didn't know the connection. It's like, oh my god. At least he copped to it. I mean,
yeah, and
she
doesn't want to feel anything for him either. But they're both kind of just getting sweet on each other, like right, like almost right away. They were a little bit antagonistic.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think I wrote down on one of my notes here. I
would say what do you think this is? Lovers. I would say friends to
enemies to lovers, secret romance, reputation overhaul, like,
I would say that, I mean, secret romance, yes, because they didn't want to cop to it, or they didn't want to admit it to their family. But I think the tropes, like brother's best friend is definitely a trope in romance novels. I think it's more friends to lovers versus enemies to lovers, because they've known each other their whole lives, and they didn't hate each other. Like, they were just... She was a kid sister, and she would like tag along, and they would tease her and like send her down the stairs in a laundry basket. They weren't like, they didn't fight, if that makes sense. So I think it's more friends to lovers than
not like Teddy and the older
Teddy
brother
and Gus are
enemies.
So there's 3 siblings in Clementine's family. So the oldest is August, and he goes by Gus. The middle is Weston, and then Clementine is the youngest. They have their parents are Amos, and their dad is Amos, and I don't remember the mom's name, but she's dead.
Yeah, she's been dead a while.
So she died when Clementine was 1 in an accident, horsing accident, riding accident,
Horsing accident.
Horsing accident. It was a very dramatic horsing accident.
Horse car pileup.
It's accurate to what it was. A horse threw her, and she hit her head on a rock and died.
Yeah.
So like clearly with Emmy's accident getting thrown from her horse, there's some, they eventually puts the two together and realizes like, oh, that's probably why I'm so traumatized from this
underlying fear of what's going on and everything.
Yes.
And the we find out that's kind of her overall backstory. She doesn't want to tell anyone right away that she had this bad fall. And we find out that Luke also had a hard-scrabbled childhood. His dad left very early on in childhood, and his mom remarried pretty quickly, and she didn't want to have anything to do with him. No. And the stepdad pretty much just kicked him out, and he pretty much lived with the Ryder family on the farm. He met Gus and Wes in like 2nd or 3rd or 4th grade or something like that, and they became fast friends, and he was pretty much part of the family. Yeah. And it was like, okay, a little more heart than some of the other books that we've read recently. A little bit more, a little deeper backstory.
What a breath of fresh air after 50 fucking shades.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And what I love too is that she hates how he dresses, but she's like these muscle shirts where he cuts the sleeves off of, and he's like, I don't want to see your nips, and then she's like, well, maybe I do, and it's like,
he didn't when I was younger, but now I do.
Yeah,
he cuts the sleeves, but like too far in, so his nipples show.
Yeah.
That's the grossest thing ever.
I just remember as a kid too. I took scissors.
You had some of those.
I cut the sleeves off a T-shirt that was, relatively, relatively expensive for a kid, and Dad was pissed that I had cut the sleeves off. It was like an Eddie Bauer shirt that was like nice-ish, and I cut the sleeves off it, and he's like, you can't just cut any shirt you want, whatever. But I still have a couple at home.
I was gonna say, you have there's a picture of you with your friends when you built that skateboard ramp in the driveway, and you had this like some gray T-shirt, and I don't know, I don't remember what it said. It had like block writing on the front and like black and blue.
It's a baseball T-shirt. I still have it I still have
it. Are you
fucking
fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's a house shirt.
Are you serious? You still have it?
You want me to go get it?
Yes, I do.
Bang my head off the wall wearing this fucking cowboy hat going through the door.
Stop. Oh my God. Show us the sleeves. Ew. That's so gross, Ned. It's so sweaty.
Mark Jackson's baseball camp.
Who's Mark Jackson?
I have no idea. But I went to that camp in like 5th grade.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you still have that T-shirt.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I was like, I felt great kinship with the nip
cut
shirts, the cut off nip shirts. Man, oh dude, so there's a lot of like angsty moments between them that were kind of weird, where she like cut her arm when she was moving in. So she moves back to the ranch. She takes the smallest cabin, which is like 500 yards from the big house. And Wes still lives in the house with their dad. Gus and his daughter live on one of the other cabins on the ranch. And she like cuts her arm, and he's like, "Let me take care of you. Eyes on me, like look at me in the eyes, like
I'm gonna hold your thighs."
And then he's just rubbing her thighs, and they're just both getting like super horny. And then Wes like knocks on the door, and it's like, oh, okay, whoopsie, maybe don't do that again.
Knocked him out of their trance, and then they had to like be like, oh, we were almost gonna kiss.
Yeah, when she doesn't tell anyone why she's home, so like she's like
nobody.
she's like trapped in the cabin for days on end, and like Gus is trying to bring her out. Like, you're a sulker. Everybody knows you're a sulker. Like, you gotta get out of the house. Go do something. And it's it's not until like down the line where Luke again sees her like tending to her horse that he's like, she's skittish. She's shaking. Like, you should not be touching
has a panic
horses
attack
when you're skittish like that, because the horses will freak out, and it's a very bad idea. And I was like, do you remember our trail ride out west? Like when we went to like the cowboy trail ride or whatever. We were in grade school, I think, when we did that. I was like,
I have vague memories of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were still pretty young when we went out there.
I've done a fair amount of trail rides in my life. I feel like I could be a cowboy. I could be a cowgirl for sure. I think I look good in this hat.
Make this hat look good.
I can't. I'm sorry. That's a visual only. I can't recreate that for the radio version of this.
Yeah, for the podcast.
But I think I liked that scene where she ends up having a panic attack around the horses, and he like pulls her aside and does like, essentially like holds her and makes her do deep breathing and helps her like work through this panic attack. And so I thought that was really nice, actually. In a nice
social worker brain,
moment.
Seemed like a good way to get her reacclimatized with her passion.
Well, yeah. So in the moment, I mean, all you can do really is like breathe through a panic attack and like focus on one thing, like sort of just like ground yourself. And so he helped her do that, which was great. And then he sort of says like she eventually tells him, like she tells just Luke. He's the only one that knows like what's going on and why she's back. And so number 2 already,
the deuce.
Wow. And so he takes it seriously. And he says, okay, this has been your life passion. You've always loved riding. Let's start from the beginning. Luke also he owns the Devil's Boot, and he's been teaching kids to ride. He's been doing
giving riding lessons.
Riding lessons at the Rebel
Been teaching
Blue
kids
Ranch.
horsing.
He's been teaching kids horsing. Listen, I've got the lingo down for cowboy smut. And so he says, look, I'm teaching kids how to ride like day by day, starting at the beginning. Let's do that with you. Like, let's get you reacclimatized to horsing. And so she agrees. And then they start like every morning doing their chores together. And then he's helping her like step by step, like, groom the horse and then tack the horse and then get on the horse
and
then
the horse and slowly go around the
yeah. And so that's sort of their progression throughout the book. And so they get really close, and she doesn't really tell she doesn't tell her brother, she doesn't tell her dad, she doesn't tell Teddy, her best friend, why she's back for a long time, really, until
probably over half the book
at least. And then people start to figure it out. But
Teddy also figures out like right away that they want a bone. Like Teddy knows before they even fuck that Luke is into her, and he's like she like comes in and confronts him in the office and is like, if you're gonna hurt my friend, and he's like, why? What did she say? And she's like, oh, I get it now. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she's like, all right, you have my blessing. And he's like, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I didn't really get that either. I didn't know what she saw that made her think like, oh, okay.
I think she saw that he cared about what Clementine thought. I think she realized that he was taking her feelings seriously and was like, oh, because he was the playboy. And he never really hurt women, but he was a kind of love them and leave them type. And in a small town like that, you really can't fuck that many people and
their moms
and not be a good guy, because if you're not, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you by every fucking father in the town.
Well, and I love the like opening scene. This doesn't really have a ton to do with anything, but she's like flirting with Kenny Wyatt, who was her like high school date, but then he left the dance with her and went like kissed another girl, and they still talk about it. They're like, she's like 27.
They slashed
the boys
his tires.
Are in their 30s. Yeah. They like still talk about how Kenny Wyatt hurt Clementine at the junior year dance or something.
She didn't even tell her brothers that she was home before she went to the bar with Teddy. And then Luke rats her out to the brothers, and they're like, and he's like, guess what? She left with Kenny Wyatt. And they're like,
went home.
What?
I know. What a shithead, Luke. I was like, you really have to call the brother and be like, and she left with Kenny Wyatt. I was like,
Technically, I think Gus called him, but
whatever.
He let the cat out of the proverbial sack.
He threw her under the bus big time.
Yeah,
and he knew it too. He was like, "Oh, why did I do that? Oops, too late."
Yeah.
So
well, and you know the helping through the mental block was like Rocky for girls, like I think, or Rocky for cowgirls. It was like okay, we got up in the saddle today, and then it was like, okay, get down, and then it was like, now you're walking around, and it's like, and then she's like jumping into his arms and giving him a hug once she like successfully rode around the track a couple times, and then we find out later in the book that the barrel racing circuit is coming back to the hometown, and they want her to perform for maybe her last show ever, compete at this show. And so he builds her a barrel racing track, like in the field where no one can watch her, where no one needs to watch her ride.
Practice in private.
But they were already boning down by that point. So it was like, but it was, we find out a lot of like Luke's backstory and her backstory through just like big chunks of exposition where they're like, Luke's mom is sick, and like people are just like explaining stuff to other characters about these other characters, and I was like, all right. I mean, it's all useful information and really gives these characters depth, but I was like, I don't know. I felt like a little weird about how much they were talking to each other about each other.
That didn't feel weird. I guess I didn't notice it that much. I feel like a lot of Emmy and Luke, like when they're doing these morning lessons, they start talking. They're like, that's their time to talk about stuff. Like that's when she found out
revealing
about the first
a lot about
kiss.
themselves.
Yeah, so because they were like, he was her brother's friend, so she was around, but they never talked and got to know each other. So I feel like in those morning lessons was when a lot of that like connection was happening. So I do feel like they talked to each other a lot, and because he was the only person that she confided in for a long time, I feel like he kind of took on a lot of her stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess you found out more about like the mom's death, and then I loved the conversation, which is maybe closer to the end, between Amos, the dad, and Clementine. They had a really great. Amos was like, "We're going to get coffee in town," and they did.
Well, and because Clementine was so young when the mom died that she never really felt connected to her mom at all. And, that's a big kind of through line, other than the ADHD stuff, is like the other big through line is she is feeling unconnected to the mom because she was so young when the mom died. And so, and Amos pretty much stopped talking about the mom, really, because she was like, oh, maybe he's too sad or something, but the mom never just really came up in conversation, so she never got to learn a whole lot about her. So that was a big like sore point for her, over the thing. And one of the lines when they're doing this whole, getting reacquainted with horses thing was like, one backwards baseball hat, and I'm throwing out all my opinions on muscle tees. I was like, oh man! And then all the mounting jokes that you can make about them mounting the horses and mounting each other and mounting this and mounting that. I was like, I mean, there's too many to even like write down in the notes.
Did you name the sex scenes in this?
Fuck yeah, I named the sex scenes. We talked about the first kiss, and then he was doing something, and she just says like, I wanted to suck on his thumb. I can't remember what context that was.
That was weird.
But that's a note. I was just like, wanted to suck his thumb ? And then lots of but his nickname for her is Sugar, and he says Sugar a lot. I was like
that I wrote down in my notes.
I was like, it's not great, but it's better than Baby to me.
I hated Sugar. Oh,
Sugar.
Hey, Sugar. Hey, Sugar. Oh, that was the worst. I hated that.
I didn't love it, but to me it was better than Baby or Baby Doll or whatever. But yeah, it was. He said it a lot. It was not great. And then little lots of my best friend's little sister talk over and over and over again. Like he's trying to convince himself not to do it, and he's just like, my best friend's little sister, my best friend's little sister, my best friend's little sister. And it's like, oh, Christ, we get it. But he is trying to talk himself out of it. And then she's like, and then Teddy, when Teddy's having her like knockdown drag out with him, which was 3 lines long, she's like, hurt my best friend and I'll cut your dick off. I was like, go Teddy.
Teddy's fun.
And then he calls her a pain in the ass and bullheaded. And I was like, okay, at least he's giving her the real talk too. He's not just like fangirling over her or fanboying over her, I guess. And then he goes to pick her up. He goes to pick her up at the house when he's going to take her on a drive out to his secret spot, and she doesn't realize it's him, and she opens the door in like her little nightshirt or whatever, and she goes, I couldn't even say good morning to him because now my nipples beat me to it.
That did make me laugh, but also like you're on a ranch, you're the only girl on a ranch anyway. Like, what did she think it was Teddy? Because like, who else are you? Is that your dad? Answer it.
Could have been the niece.
I guess, but regardless, I think there's most people on that ranch I would not want to see in like a nightie. I don't know, but
and it was like little cotton panties and like a sleeping tee or whatever.
I know. I was like, girl.
And then she gets super horny about his forearms when they're driving out there. I was like, most of these books, these ladies get super horny over forearms. I don't know. I don't get the appeal, but
forearms are nice. Yeah, they're nice. And
pretty late in the game, we get. I mean, they got super horny over each other when he was giving her the Band-Aid treatment. Yeah, but just short of 50%. We also didn't have chapter numbers in this, so I kind of had to make up percentages.
Oh, yeah.
So just short of 50%, probably like let's say 48%. Okay, they have their first kiss. Yeah. And then I labeled this one, which although not a sex scene, it got close. I called it "Ladies First Kiss" because she initiates.
She initiated,
and then that leads to "Truckus Fuckus Interruptus."
Oh my god!
Because they were about to bang on the front seat of his car, and Gus, her older brother, calls, and he's like on the phone talking to the older brother as they're dry humping in the front seat, and she's like nipping at his neck, and I'm like, you're both gross. Fucked if he finds out. Like, this is weird. Yeah. And so like after a few false starts, Emmy just takes the lead and gives him a big old smooch, and then they're dry humping in the truck, and it gets interrupted by the phone call, and it's like, okay. And I'm like, that was weird. I was like, she knows it's a big deal, yet she's still like tongue in his neck, and I'm like,
no,
with the brother on the phone.
Yeah, that was gross. Like, I didn't love it. But it showed that she like she couldn't help herself. I think that whole point of some of those like interactions between those two was like they couldn't help themselves. They knew they shouldn't, but they still did.
The connection was so strong.
Yeah, they like had to touch each other. That's what I got out of that. I mean, it was gross, but and like risky. But I was like, well, she has to. Yeah, there's a magnetic connection.
She had to get up in it.
She had to.
Well, and then he's like, he sees Gus later on because he works on the ranch, so he has to like go help on the ranch, and he's like, I feel like I kissed your sister like tattooed on my forehead, and like I forget how come she wants to jump. Like she saw him dealing with the niece. I forget the niece's name. Gus's daughter, but he sees her like dealing with her on the ranch, Riley, I think. And he sees her like giving her a riding lesson or whatever. Yeah. And she just gets like super wet and is like and no, they're at the family dinner. He gets invited to family dinner.
She walks in and Emmy walks in and
Luke is holding the niece and like Riley, bouncing her around and whatever, and it was like
she's 4. I mean, she's not that small, but
but she gets all super horny, and they have this family dinner, and I was like, Helen, this is the perfect time to like let their farts out
for
on the
fart
walk.
Machine.
No, not a fart machine, but literally they just ate a big cowboy dinner. Like, and they're about to go bone, and it's like, you just ate this huge meal, like someone's gonna shit themselves.
Jesus. Okay, honestly, that is kind of a personal problem for you that you can't like go more than 30 minutes after a meal without shitting yourself. But
Preservatives,
also,
they fuck me up.
I know you need to try a low FODMAP diet. But they like Amos tells Luke to walk Emmy home. He's like, it's just 500 yards. Like, make sure she gets to her cabin safe. And
he knows what's going on too. Like Amos is clued in. He's like, there's nothing on this ranch I don't know about. Yeah.
But at this point, they hadn't actually done anything yet. I think maybe Amos knew. Well, but Amos didn't know that. He doesn't have cameras. So I think Amos maybe thought there was some flirtation. But
he's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. He knew.
Okay. So Luke walks her back. They bone
Luke,
all
literally,
night.
like Star Wars.
Okay. See? Wow. Good jobs.
Making connections.
So Luke walks her back. They fuck all night. Luke leaves his truck at the big house. And so then they get interrupted in the morning by Weston, who comes and it says like, hey, we need help with this thing on the ranch. Like, I think Luke is already here because his truck is here. He must have gotten here super early. And so, people are...
Well, you skipped the 2 seconds, so we got to go back so I can read my titles. Well, because there's the morning after.
Okay.
So
all right. Fill us in on what you titled these.
The family meal, perfect time for farting on the 500-yard walk down to the cabin. Nobody takes care of any business. And then 52% in, I call it full belly fucking. Finger licking good.
Oh my gross. No.
So they're goodbye to each other. He literally drops her off and is like, goodbye. And then she shuts the door, and then he goes back and is like, she yanks the door open. He's about to knock, and they just start humping. And he's like, she's like, I wanted him to take it all. And they
dove right into the dirty talk.
Yeah. Oh, lots of dirty talk. And they did have the condo conversation. Yeah. Decided none is needed.
Yeah. He was like, I don't have any. And she was like, well, I have an IUD. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then he's like, I'm in charge tonight. Understand. And
the dirty
talk was, I mean, all of these three brothers, I'm counting Luke as one of the brothers, even though that's a little weird, but they are hella dirty talkers.
Well, you listened to all 3 books.
Yeah,
this week
I listened to all 3. All 3 books.
I did not have time for that. I just listened to Done and Dusted.
Yeah, I went through. I went through all 3 of them. And I know how you're going to feel about this line, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh God, don't.
The sound of his fingers moving in and out of me was obscene.
Oh my God. Oh no, Ned. Gross. Why do you think you're so funny?
Helen had to cover her face
once. Shame. The shame. Oh. Why couldn't you tell me to take my headphones out? That was...
Because last time you did that, you missed 3 excellent jokes on pucking around.
Yuck.
So then they talk about eating the pea is not worth your time. And he's like, I don't know who you've been with before, but they obviously weren't real men.
That's in like every romance novel.
Yeah,
I love tasting your hoo-ha.
Yeah, and then they like kiss her deep, and she's like, I taste myself on him.
Oh,
it's like okay, and then she feels so full. She's just very full. There's lots of full talk.
Not from dinner.
Yeah, not from dinner, and then they finish off with some shower sex, and then they wake up the next morning and he's just like, "Yep, well, I go morning after pillow pounding is what I call that one." About 53% in.
Yep.
And she makes Luke hide. She's a sex-crazed heathen. There's a couple lines in there about that. And then I was like, at least they got each other off before Wes showed up.
Wasn't a wasted.
Yeah,
you hate when they get like blue balled, right? The worst way to start your day.
The worst. And Luke right away goes, I don't want to be your dirty little secret. Like he wants to go tell the brothers right away. And
Yeah.
she does not want. I said he wants to be out and proud about their doing it, and she's the one that wants to keep the secret, which is usually it's the other way around. I feel like sometimes.
Yeah.
I maybe it's split more 50-50 than that, but I feel like more often than not the dude is the one that is wanting to keep it secret, and the woman is the one that wants to tell everybody, except for hockey sluts.
Yeah, I was going to say,
she's the one that wanted to keep it secret.
I feel like in romance novels, usually it's it's what these writers like want to see. So I think they want the guys to be like, no, I want you to be my girlfriend. I want everybody to know. I want to shout it from the mountaintops. I don't know. That was my perspective. But this is Emmy's whole thing. She comes home. She doesn't tell anybody why she's home. She doesn't tell anybody. Her whole thing is that she needs time to process and really think through everything before she tells anybody anything. And so she doesn't want to talk about the accident. She doesn't want to talk about Luke. She holds all of these things close. Yeah,
she barely tells Teddy about it.
Yeah,
who's her best friend. They make multiple mentions of her being her soulmate.
Yes.
Teddy's my soulmate. I may love you, but Teddy's my soulmate. I'm like, oh, that's a little weird, but okay. But then Teddy, they're talking about something, and Teddy goes, "You're holding back," and Emmy's like, "How can you tell?" And Teddy's like, "'Cause you look like you're constipated." I was like, okay, that's a good line. Like best friends, it's like, you look like you're constipated, so I know you're holding something back on me.
That's right.
And what the fuck is a milkmaid neckline? And I didn't know what the hell that was.
Like a square, and then your boobs are out.
Okay. So because she talked about how Teddy loves fashion, loves clothes, and she gave her this super nice dress with a milkmaid neckline because Emmy likes the way it shows off her shoulder blades or something. Yeah. I was
it's like a wide square. And, and they would there'd be ruffles here and their tits are out and they're milking cows. You know what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
I visualize that perfectly. It's surprising. Milkmaid neckline.
Well, and they're just horny all the time for each other now. He's watching her drink and he's like, "Oh my God, it's so hot." And then he goes all, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who's that in the picture?"
A Google girl. I don't know.
Google girl.
Some Google girl.
Then what I don't love, he goes all aggro over the dudes at the bar when they're like, "Oh,
it's milkmaid."
Milkmaid. With the bustier.
That's milkmaid fashion. Duh. Anyway, carry on. He goes at the bar when those guys
he goes
are
all
near
aggro
her.
at the bar and they're hitting on her friends or whatever else, and he's like I get it, I get it, but I also only step in when asked to step in, and make it physical if only absolutely necessary. And he he saw this dude's hand on her leg, which Emmy is a firecracker and can deal with this stuff herself, and he jumps in and almost gets in a fight with this guy and pushes him to the ground.
Get in a fight with him, I thought.
He pushes him over. I don't know if I mean I guess you can consider that fighting, but it's pretty one-sided. If it was, I mean, it was more winning. But then he I was like,
he kicks him out of the bar and everybody's excited.
And she says to him, "This isn't a romance novel." And I was like, "But it is."
Yes, it is.
I was like, "It is."
I think too,
hitting people is bad.
There's an insinuation that Teddy set that up, that she
Told those guys to come hit on Emmy so that he would see it and
really.
I didn't get that.
There was a line, she said something along the lines of I wouldn't be surprised if Teddy made this happen. Because it was Teddy's birthday. That was why they were at the bar that night. Teddy made her the red dress with the milkmaid neckline.
Right.
To because she knew that.
Milkmaid neckline.
Okay, put your hands down. Ned is milking a cow live on a children's podcast.
Milking the podcast.
You're milking the pod. So I feel like Teddy orchestrated this entire night for them to go to the Devil's Boot, for them to for like these guys and then the insinuation is that she like made it so these guys were hitting on them. Luke got territorial, and then
I did not get that.
Well, she said, I wouldn't be surprised if Teddy made this happen. That's it. I read into that. But then Luke kicks the guy out. Everybody cheers because the bar owner's like kicking someone out. So they're like, it must be justified. And then he grabs Emmy and they go in the back and bone.
Not very creative on this one. 70% through-ish. I just said back office bone zone. Just straight to the point. We find out she's not wearing any panties for the whole night, and he just straight up was like, "You bare pussied slut," and I'm like, "Oh,
really?
Oh yeah, yeah." I was like, okay, dirty talk, but that's wow, okay. and then I went below that note. I was like, rock solid dirty talk.
I hated the dirty talk.
Rock solid dirty talk.
Ugh.
And then I texted you this line. Whiskey spitting fingering is what I.
Oh my god.
Oh, and I mean the sex scenes are intricate. They're
well done. Yes,
they're well done, and they're the dirtiest part about them. I think is the dirty talk. Actually,
yeah,
the sex is pretty. It's hot. It's steamy, but it's it's pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy going on. But the dirty talk is like wow.
This is also Lyla Sage is the author. This is her first book ever. So the Rebel Blue Ranch series, the fourth one that is coming out now. This is all she's written. So there's 4 books, and then there's a new series that's being released this fall of 2025. But so technically, Done and Dusted is her first romance novel, and she talks about how she loves she loves romance novels. She reads a ton of them. Probably she said she started too early.
She named a bunch of authors at the very end of the book. They have a conversation with her, and she lists off a bunch of authors, and I'm like, read that one, read that one, read that one.
You've read a lot,
but she is. Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, for her first book, she fucking knocked it out of the park.
Well done, very well done.
Absolutely. It was, arguably, like, I don't know if there's more of this story that I needed to hear, but I would, the other books are a little bit longer than this one. I think this is the shortest one of the 3 that have come out so far. And, but I'm absolutely interested in the world. I would read more books about this town.
Rebel Blue Ranch, Meadowlark.
And considering I listened to all 3 books in a row, one after another, this week, I dipped my toe in that pond.
You're a cowboy smutter.
Oh,
you love a good cowboy smut. Do you wear your hat when you're reading these books?
Oh, no, only when I masturbate.
Cut. I'm leaving the room. I can't. No. I'm stuck.
Helen is having a freak out.
I'm stuck in my chair. I can't.
Deep breathing exercises. Your panic attack. Think about cows giving birth to try and get the other images out of your head.
I'm using my pressure point. Oh.
Oh man.
Moving on. So she goes and she wins the horse race, and then they get together, and then Gus punches.
The talk
and
with
then
the
the book's
dad.
over.
The talk with the dad is next.
You ruined it. You ruined everything.
Oh man.
All right, carry on. Tell us the rest of the story.
So we already mentioned it before, but her dad is like, come into town with me. And she sees Kenny and kind of gives him the brush off, and I'm seeing somebody, whatever, and then they have coffee. And she asks,
the dad, not her.
She and the dad. And she asks about her mom, and it's like, why don't you talk about mom? And he's like, he has a very raw moment with her in the coffee shop where he's like, in my head, I can keep her safe, but if I talk about her, then it all becomes real, where she's dead. And I'm like, I'm not crying, you're crying. Like, you know, who's cutting onions in this coffee shop?
Yeah, that was
is what she says. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that was a very emotional, very heartfelt scene, you know, like very reminiscent of Bad Girl Reputation, where they have that catharsis through, you know, conversation about dead moms. You know, it was nice. It was well done. And the third book with Teddy and Gus has another kind of cathartic moment like that too, where Teddy is talking about how, you know, I'm a care provider and I take care of everybody, but nobody takes care of me. And Clementine from this book is, you know, ensconced with Luke, and Teddy's kind of losing her best friend, and it's a very heartfelt moment. She has those kind of good gut punch scenes, you know, emotional stuff where I was like, wow, okay, yeah, you know, kittens.
I teared up during the dad and daughter, during Amos and Clementine's scene when they were talking. It's just really sad. I mean, your mom dies when you're 1 year old, and you like never get to know her, but you're like super similar, and you know, boys are boys and nobody ever talks about the mom. Like, that would be so fucking hard. So I definitely teared up during that scene, and I really liked it. And I just, number 3. Oh, there it is. So I really like that. where it put everybody. All right. What's next on your sexcapades notes?
Well, there isn't much more sex in the book. Oh. There's one more, but you know, we'll get to that in due time, Helen. So he builds her the previously mentioned barrel racing circuit, and I'm like, if that's not love, I don't know what is. I mean, he put a lot of time and effort into like building this out for her so she can practice in secret, and you know, she doesn't know if she's going to get her chops back before this big race. And
in front of all of her friends and family. Yeah,
in front of all the friends and the town, which she is like the princess of the town because she's this famous barrel racer. I mean, she holds like the country record in the quickest barrel race. And this is where she says the line of the book comes into play. He's like, just because you got dusted doesn't mean you're done. And I'm like, okay.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. And when she's like first starting to try and do the barrels again, and then his relationship with his mom comes up a couple more times throughout the book, and she calls him when she needs something. Yeah. And her husband had like just disappeared for 3 or 4 days, and her 2 other sons were gone or doing something. So she calls Luke over, and Emmy's like, do you want me to go with you? Like, do you want me to? And he's like, yes, please. But like, I didn't grow up like you. He
tells her not to go, and then she comes forces her way in. Yeah. Anyway,
well, he's glad she came, I guess, is what I meant after
at
the fact.
End, he's glad, but he did not ask her to come.
Well, because he warns her when they show up. He's like,
she
I didn't
does
grow
not
up
like your
you.
family. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't like your family, but also I didn't grow up like you. Like, you know, his mom's just smoking in the house, and it's dirty, and there's shit everywhere. Not legitimate shit, but like garbage stuff is all over the house.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe there's a poo pile or 2.
I literally have dog poop on the floor next to me. I'm not kidding. Nice. I refused to pick it up. I told Ben it was there, and I was like, it's your mom's dog. You have to pick up the shit. I'm waiting.
Waiting for him to come in to get you?
Yeah.
Do you put your cowboy boots on too? Are you going to just step in it and get shit everywhere?
No, but every time I get up from this chair, I have to be very cautious and not step on it. I literally have shit on the floor next to me. Carry on. So they go to Luke's mom's house.
Yeah, and she stands up for him. She's like, you can't treat your son like this. Like, this isn't okay.
Emmy stands up for Luke.
Stands up for Luke, and when they leave, he's like very emotional, and he goes, no one's ever stood up for me before. And I was like, that kind of got me in the feels too, because I was like, I mean, it's a very powerful moment for Luke, who's kind of a carefree kind of guy, and he's like, no one other than the brothers, which he is literally betraying right now by fucking their sister and not telling them, which he still holds a lot of guilt over, but he's letting Emmy call the shots in that regard. And then they go to the race. It's like race time.
Yeah.
And she's about to have a panic attack before the race, and Teddy goes and gets Luke, and he calms her down.
Emmy asks for him.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, because she never asks for anything. She just is super independent, wants to deal with everything by herself. And so the fact that she asked Teddy to go get Luke and bring him back there to help her settle before the race was a really big deal. And that's how Teddy knew they were in love.
I think she already knew that, though, because by this time Teddy knows that they're boning down on the reg.
But also, I finished this book like 2 hours ago, so I remember the scene really well.
Okay.
And Teddy says to Luke, she never asks for anything, and she asked for you, and that's a big deal. And then I think it was right after that then that, like, they go back to the race, yada, yada, whatever. You can finish.
Yeah. Well, and then she breaks the record. She does a different route than everybody else does. Like, they get into the specifics of how to barrel race, and he's like, everybody goes right, but she went left, and she ends up breaking not only everybody else's time, she ends up beating her own world record in barrel racing. It's a big deal, and everyone goes fucking insane. And then, of course, she jumps into his arms, and they give a big old smooch right in front of the entire family. And then
outing
Gus,
themselves.
Yeah, outing themselves. And Gus punches Luke right in the face. And it's like, okay, all right.
What is this called? This is like the low moment. Well, they declare their like essentially for each other by kissing in front of everybody. So they're declaring themselves as a couple. But then there's the punch, and then there's a low moment, and then they don't talk or they talk, but they don't see each other for a few days.
They don't see each other for a few days. But also, it's not your garden variety low moment in like other romance books, because there isn't a problem between the two of them. It's a problem between Gus and Luke. Yeah. And the fact that they're still talking. They are not broken up. There's nothing like going on that's ruining their relationship. Usually there's a low point in the relationship where they break up, or there's some confusion, and one of them, is pissed at the other.
Yeah.
That didn't happen here. It's mainly the brother interjected himself into the relationship, and he's not welcome on the ranch until all that gets sorted out. Yeah. And so Gus, after a couple of days with Emmy not talking to him, she freezes him out. Gus comes down to Luke's house to apologize to him, and he's like, maybe I can be okay with it, and all this other kind of stuff. And then Luke is like, I'm sorry she didn't want to tell you, whatever else. And Gus was like, wait, she didn't want to tell us? And he goes, yeah, I wanted to tell you guys right away. And he was like,
it's Emmy's fault, not yours.
That makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, I should have punched her in the face. And then of course he's like, Emmy's up on the back 40, and Luke runs out of there like a loon to go find her and hump her on the ranch.
Bareback to find her on this ranch.
Yeah, he does.
He does. And Emmy's like, do I hear somebody yelling my name? And then she turns and just sees her cowboy riding bareback to find her in a field.
So 98%-ish, I call this one poke for the road. And and they get one final bang in before the book ends. And I mean, it's pretty compact. I mean, it takes place over the course of like a couple months, but it's told very linearly and very
succinctly.
It was a tight 6.5 hours. A lot of stuff happened. Real tight.
Okay. Joke's dead.
But yeah, I mean, the identity stuff with him being like, I'm not a playboy anymore. Like, I'm gonna prove it to you. Like, that sort of stuff. That redemption story, which. Okay, yeah, he banged a lot of girls, but
no, he wrapped his motorcycle around a tree. He was reckless. He was very much not. And his dad was like a clear alcoholic and excessive alcoholic, and so he's
the one that actually owned the bar, and that
which is how
him
so
the bar.
Luke came to own the bar when the dad died. Within the last 3 or 4 years, he left the bar to Luke, and so Luke was like, well, it actually made him feel better because he was like, well, my dad mismanaged my youth so badly. When he took over the bar, he saw how mismanaged the bar was, and he was like, great, it wasn't just me. It was me and the bar, and he just couldn't handle anything. So he was actually, it like made him feel better. The bar was so mishandled. But at one point, Amos sat down with Luke, and well, I think they had several moments like this throughout Luke's life, but basically Amos was like, you can live your dad's life or you can live your own life, and choose wisely. And so Luke was like, I can't become my dad. I can't, make all these stupid decisions. And then he also said, so Gus had a daughter, which we've talked about. But so when that daughter was born, they all kind of stepped up and were like, we're all going to be like really great, figures to this kid in this kid's life. And so that was an inspiration to him. He like wanted to do better when Riley was born. But there was like a bunch of stuff that happened while Emmy was in Denver that made him want to become a better man.
I want to be a better man. I don't want your life.
I don't want your life. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
I loved in the Q&A at the end, Lyla Sage talks about how she based this character off of Tim Riggins from Friday Night Lights, which is one of my favorite shows. I mean, I haven't watched it in a decade, but Tim Riggins is fucking hot. So, yeah. Thanks, Lyla.
I can't get my hands close enough to my ears.
I'm sorry. You've already ruined this podcast.
That was a good one.
I can say whatever I want. I can say whatever I want.
Getting all horny over Friday Night Lights.
It is one of those things where like 30-year-old men are playing like 17-year-olds. But that's fine. Worked out for me.
Worked out for me.
I felt less creepy. Anyway, so that was who Luke Brooks, was who he was like modeled after, was if he grew up.
Well, and what would you consider the spice level on this? Because in our notes you had this as like a medium plus spicy.
Yeah,
I thought this was pretty spicy. How are you rating these spice levels on here? Is it like super spicy, being like the fuck books like Beautiful Bastard, or so like just straight sex?
Well, because I think our podcast is Sibs Reads Smut, but a lot of these books that we're reading, I love the at Beach Reads and Bubbly, coined the term Brad. I just feel like that is just Beach Reads After Dark. I feel like that's such a better name for these books because they're not all like smut. Like smut to me is like Beautiful Bastard, or like where it's the sex
but we're defining our own terms here.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but like
open
I feel
door hardcore sex could be considered smut, even if there's only 3 or 4 scenes of that.
I guess, but there's so much plot to these books that like I don't know. I just don't feel like they're just pornos. I feel like they have like an actual storyline where you feel connected to the characters, and then there's great open door sex scenes. I would stand.
I'm waggling my eyebrows for the podcast crowd at home.
I would stand by my medium plus on this one because it's. I don't know. I don't think it's like disgustingly spicy.
Yeah, I'd go if we're doing a spicy. If we're doing
spicy's like pucking around where there's like semen swapping and like their fingers in the butthole while they're like eating out somebody else's butt. Like that is like.
What you just said was way dirtier than anything I said earlier in the podcast, Helen. Podcast ruined.
That is spicy. This is medium plus.
I'd go spicy minus.
You're so dumb. That's so stupid. You just have to be a contrarian. You can't agree.
I do. But the cover's great, people. So just download
Covers
it.
Are good.
Yes. But okay. So I guess the only thing left is, would you recommend this book?
Fuck yeah. Yes. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
I know I've said this, but I like, when a book hits and it's just like, it's the right time, it's the right place. It slaps. 50 Shades did not slap. I hated it. Was like slogging through the worst Like, just, I hated reading that book. So, like, to pick this book up and have just a breath of fresh air with, like, well-written characters, and there was humor in it, and there was funny stuff, and the sex wasn't weird. Like, I didn't feel super uncomfortable. Like, oh, they have to write a contract to bone. I don't know.
Never signed.
I know. But anyway, we don't need I need to get 50 Shades. Like, this was like scrubbing 50 Shades from my brain. And it was such a great, it was quick. It was great character development. It made me, they wrote the scenery really well too. Like,
yeah.
And well, I mean, I had Yellowstone in my brain, I guess. But, you know, that's what I'm envisioning as they're there. I loved it. It was great. Would you recommend it?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, she paints a good world. Yeah. You know, she built a good town. You know, it was very descriptive. Like you said, the scenery was very descriptive.
Yeah.
She really brought you to this place in time, and the characters, you know, obviously she had already pre-built 3 books or 4 books. So, like, you know, the characters were all well developed because I think she had those stories like already working around in her brain.
Yeah.
So she like really knew Wes's temperament and his character, and Gus and Teddy, and, you know, and the father. Like, she had these really well put together, well backstoried characters, and it was well done. I mean, it was great. And she as a first time writer, I mean, knocked it out of the park, because sometimes with first time books, you can, you know, especially in like the Spy Game and, you know, other these books where like there's a lot of content coming out. I mean, romance is similar, but you can tell the first book or two when people, and their dialogue isn't great. Yeah. You know, they have to say he said or she said after every line because the characters don't have unique voices. That was not a problem in this book. Like, she had unique characters and voices for everybody. It was, you know, it was a fantastic first book. And if nothing else needs to be said, I listened to the other 2 books directly following this. You know, I marathoned all 3 books in about 2.5 days.
And they're all dual perspective, right? Because
correct.
I think we prefer dual perspective for sure.
Yeah,
I think that helps you get to know the characters as well.
It helps you get to know the characters, and it helps break up the one voice in one head angle of it, where, you know, if you're only getting the story from one perspective, it's like it can provide a unique perspective if that perspective is fun in some way. Like, if they're an unreliable narrator, or if they're, you know, potentially lying about what they're seeing or something else. But like, if it's just in this person's brain, listening to them drone on about the same shit over and over and over again, it's like
thumbs down.
Do not like.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think we both give this 2 thumbs up the butt for sure.
Very full. It's a full butthole.
Very full. You're welcome, Christ. Mom and Dad.
Oh God, sorry guys. All right, what are we reading next? How do we follow up this book that we loved so much?
Up next week is another virginal reading for me. I have not read this one yet. This is Mr. Masters by T.L. Swan is up next. And this is labeled as spicy. Real spicy burrito. Which I have not read it. I just started it yesterday. And it is interesting.
I haven't read it in a couple of years. So...
But if you're liking, revisit. Yeah, if you're liking our bullshit, please sign up. Please sign up, hit that button, rate, review, subscribe on all the general, you know, platforms and what have you. Just generally golden shower us with praise.
Gross.
That's not how you want to end the podcast, Helen?
You know, I need to go to bed.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and please tune in next week, Smutters.
Stay smutty.
Stay smutty. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Oh no.
Yeehaw.
My whole forehead is covered in the band of this.
Nah, I guess you really don't wear it that often.
I don't. Whoopsie.
You know what that means.
Cut.